On the surface, it's just a bunch of farm animals kicking out their human owner because they want freedom. Cute, right? But the deeper you go, the more the story stops being about a farm at all. It becomes a disturbing mirror of how power actually works. So, the book opens at Manor Farm, owned by a guy named Mr. Jones. He's supposed to take care of the animals in the farm. Instead, he neglects them, and he spends more time drinking than actually running the farm. And Orwell makes this clear right away. The animals aren't just unhappy. They're exploited and hopeless. But everything changes one night, because the oldest pig on the farm, Old Major, calls a secret meeting in the barn. It was not a regular meeting, by the way. Old Major is respected by everyone. He's wise and basically the philosopher of the farm. He stands in front of all the animals. Every animal in the farm joins the meeting. The horses, cows, pigs, dogs, chickens, and even the rats sneak in to see what Old Major has to say. And Old Major drops the truth bomb that changes everything. He says, man is the only creature that consumes without producing. He tells them that humans take everything. Their milk, their eggs, their labor, their children, their entire lives, and give nothing in return. He says animals live miserable lives because humans force them into misery. And as long as humans are in charge, animals will never be free. Then he pushes the idea that becomes the entire foundation of the story. All animals are equal. All humans are enemies. This is the birth of a philosophy called animalism, which is basically communism for farm animals. And then Old Major tells them about a dream he had. A world where animals are free, where they control their own food, their own work, their own lives. A paradise without humans. And the animals? They're hypnotized. They've never heard anything like this before. And for the first time, they imagine a life where they're not slaves. Even the stupidest animals feel something awakening inside them. But like every revolution, the dream doesn't survive the dreamer. 3 days later, Old Major dies. After Old Major's death, the pigs step up as leaders. 3 pigs immediately take control. One is Snowball, who's smart, idealistic, and creative. Another one is Napoleon. Napoleon is quiet, intense, power-hungry. And the third one, Squealer, is the propaganda machine. Together, they start turning Old Major's ideas into a full philosophy animalism. But the other animals, they don't really get it. They're like, so no more humans, but who's going to feed us? This is where Squealer shines. He explains things in a way that manipulates everyone emotionally, even when he's lying. This pig could literally sell sand in a desert. But the real villain is Napoleon. He barely speaks, but he watches everything, and he's already planning to twist the revolution for himself. One night, Mr. Jones gets too drunk and forgets to feed the animals again. The animals finally snap. They break into the food shed. Jones tries to beat them back with a whip. They rise up as a mob, chase Jones off the farm, and officially take control. Manor Farm becomes Animal Farm. The animals cheer, cry, hug. It's the happiest moment in the entire book. The pigs create a constitution. They make 7 laws painted on the barn wall. One is, whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. Second law is, whatever goes upon 4 legs or has wings is a friend. Third is, no animal shall wear clothes. And last law is, all animals are equal. This is the heart of the story. And Orwell wants you to notice something. These laws are pure. They're perfect and impossible to corrupt unless the pigs find a way, which they will. After the rebellion, something surprising happens. The farm actually works. For the first time ever, the animals own the land they work on. They wake up with purpose. They feel dignity. Even the laziest animals start working harder than before, because the work finally means something. But Orwell wants you to notice something important. Even in a society built on equality, someone is always watching for an opportunity to rise above the rest. And on Animal Farm, that someone is the pigs. The pigs don't farm and don't do physical labor. They decide their role is brain work. Right after the rebellion, the cows produce milk. And nobody knows where it goes. The pigs tell everyone, don't worry about it. Next thing you know, the pigs are drinking it. When the animals ask why, Squealer steps in with his trademark manipulative masterpiece. We pigs are brain workers. We need milk and apples for your sake. If we fail in our duty, Jones will come back. And all the animals instantly obey the pigs blindly. And now Orwell reveals a timeless trick used by every manipulator in history, which is fear. Just hint at a bigger threat, and people accept anything. The horse boxer becomes the heart of the farm. Boxer is the strongest animal on the farm, both physically and morally. He becomes a symbol of hard work and loyalty. His personal motto becomes, I will work harder. And honestly, that's the saddest sentence in the entire book. Because Boxer gives everything, his strength, time, and loyalty to the pigs who will eventually betray him worse than anyone else. But not yet. For now, he's the reason the farm succeeds. Snowball wants everyone to learn to read. Snowball teaches writing, organizes classes, tries to educate every animal. Napoleon only educates the puppies privately. This isn't random. Napoleon is building a secret police force. He takes the puppies away to educate them. But what he's doing is raising them into attack dogs loyal only to him. On the outside, it looks innocent. But when you look deep into it, Orwell is showing how dictators create power. And then comes the most important and interesting chapter in the book, when the revolution goes public. Nearby, farms learn that the animals have overthrown their human owner. Some humans laugh and think it's impossible. Others get scared because if their animals get ideas, well, that's not good for business. Jones, meanwhile, becomes the neighborhood meme. A farmer who got beaten by cows and chickens? What? Embarrassing. And then comes the Battle of the Cow Shed. Jones decides he's had enough humiliation. He gathers a group of farmers and marches back to Animal Farm to take it by force. This is the farm's first real test. Snowball steps up as a military strategist. He studied Julius Caesar's battle tactics. He organizes ambushes and flanking strategies. Snowball turns the animals into an army. The battle is surprisingly intense. One of the sheep dies, Snowball gets wounded, and Jones shoots at them. The animals nearly lose, but they push the humans out. This is their first true victory, their first real claim to independence. It's a huge moment. And just like every revolution in history, the battle becomes propaganda fuel. After that, Snowball becomes a hero. Snowball is awarded a medal for bravery. Even Boxer, who accidentally kills a human in the chaos, is horrified. But Snowball, he becomes a face of victory. And Napoleon hates that. This is the exact moment Napoleon realizes Snowball is becoming too influential and respected among all the animals. He's becoming a dangerous competitor, and every dictator knows the truth. You can share a farm, you can share work, but you cannot share power. This is the beginning of Snowball's downfall and Napoleon's rise. So at this point, the animals are working hard, the pigs are managing, and everything looks okay on the surface. Snowball comes up with the most ambitious project the farm has ever seen, a giant windmill. He says it will generate electricity, automate farm work, reduce labor, improve quality of life, and the animals love the idea. Except Napoleon? He hates the windmill idea. He calls it useless, a waste of time, unrealistic. He doesn't hate it because it's a bad idea. He hates it because it's a Snowball idea. Snowball is becoming too influential, too admired. Napoleon knows he can't out-talk Snowball. Snowball is smarter and better at speeches, so he plans something darker. One Sunday, the farm holds a big meeting to vote on the windmill. Snowball steps forward and gives the best speech of his life. The animals are literally seconds away from voting for him. And then Napoleon plays his final card. He stands up, looks at the animals, and lets out a single sharp grunt. This is the signal. Out of nowhere, the 9 dogs the puppies Napoleon secretly raised come charging into the barn like a pack of wolves. Huge, vicious, loyal only to Napoleon. Snowball barely escapes with his life. The animals are too shocked to understand what's happening. He runs out of the barn. The dogs chase him. He disappears. Snowball is gone. Orwell shows one of the darkest truths about power. When intelligence threatens authority, authority uses violence. Napoleon takes control. The dust barely settles before Napoleon steps forward and calmly announces, "There will be no more debates, no more meetings. All decisions will be made by a small committee, led by me." The animals are terrified, but also confused. They didn't expect a dictatorship. Squealer immediately steps in with a psychological cleanup. "You don't want Jones to come back, do you?" Napoleon steals Snowball's idea. Remember how Napoleon called the windmill stupid, a waste of time, an impossible dream? Right after Snowball is gone, Napoleon says, "I've decided the windmill should be built." The animals are like, "Huh?" But Squealer twists it beautifully. Actually, the windmill was Napoleon's idea first. Snowball stole it. This isn't just lying, it's rewriting history, and Orwell wants you to see how easy it is when the people in power control the story. The windmill becomes Napoleon's symbol of leadership. Snowball becomes the villain, and the animals accept all of it because they want to believe the pig who's still here, not the one who's gone. The animals drag stones up hills, break boulders with hooves, lift logs with ropes. They work through storms and hunger. Boxer, being the hero he is, pushes himself harder than everyone. His motto evolves from, "I will work harder," to "Napoleon is always right." And that sentence is basically the entire tragedy of Animal Farm. The farm grows poor, but the pigs get richer. Napoleon begins making deals with human farmers, the same humans old Major warned them about. The animals are terrified. They weren't supposed to interact with humans. After a year of brutal labor, the windmill finally stands tall. The animals cheer, they feel proud, they see hope again. Then, a massive storm hits. By the next morning, the windmill lies in ruins, destroyed. The animals stand in shock, and Napoleon does something genius. He blames Snowball. Even though Snowball is probably half-starved somewhere in the woods, Napoleon says he sneaked in at night and blew up the windmill. No evidence, but the animals believe him, because the alternative that their year of work was destroyed by weather is too heartbreaking. So they choose the more dramatic explanation. Napoleon declares the windmill must be rebuilt. And this time, with double the effort. No extra food, no rest. The animals are miserable, but they obey. Because Boxer says, if Napoleon says so, it must be right. And Boxer's loyalty becomes a chain that keeps everyone else working, even when that chain eventually destroys him. So they start building the windmill. Eventually, the farm enters a brutal winter, the coldest they've ever faced. But the pigs cannot afford anyone losing faith. If the animals lose hope, Napoleon would lose control. So he needs a distraction. And the perfect distraction is always the same: an enemy. That enemy becomes Snowball, even though he's gone, starving, and has zero power. Slowly, the animals run out of food, grain, and warm shelter, but Napoleon orders the hens to surrender their eggs so he can trade them for more food. But this time, the hens refuse. Unlike the other animals, the hens fight back. This is one of the only moments of resistance in the entire book. The hens smash their eggs on the ground so Napoleon can't take them, and Napoleon cuts off their rations completely. He starves them. 9 hens die of starvation and the rest give up. Orwell is basically showing this is how revolutions die, in those small, quiet moments where resistance starves out. Now, Napoleon realizes something clever. The more blame he places on Snowball, the less blame falls on him. Suddenly, anything that breaks, any tool that goes missing, any food shortage, is blamed on Snowball. It becomes ridiculous, but fear makes people believe anything. Squealer starts claiming that Snowball is secretly working with humans, sneaking onto the farm at night and committing sabotage. And this psychological manipulation works because it's easier for the animals to blame a villain they already hate than to confront the fact that their leader is failing them. Napoleon even claims Snowball was a traitor from the beginning, meaning even Snowball's heroic actions in Battle of the Cowshed were lies. Napoleon is basically trying to rewrite history. At this point, the dogs are massive, violent, and fully loyal to Napoleon. They stand near him constantly, growl at anyone who disagrees. The message that Orwell's trying to give here is simple: obedience is survival, doubt is death. Now comes the darkest chapter in the entire novel. Napoleon calls a meeting. All the animals gather, they're nervous and confused. Then the dogs drag 4 pigs out in front of everyone. The pigs confess to crimes they didn't commit. They say they were working with Snowball, sabotaging the farm, etc. And Napoleon orders the dogs to tear their throats out in front of everyone. Then more animals step forward, confessing to insane things like stealing grain, plotting with Snowball, having dream conversations with the enemy. All lies and fear-induced, and Napoleon kills them all. The chickens, sheep, even a few cows. The animals watch in terror. Everyone realizes the revolution is dead. Animal Farm has become worse than the human farm. This is Orwell at his peak, showing how revolutions eat their own children. Even Boxer, who is too good for this world, tries to make sense of the massacre. A loyal worker trying to justify cruelty because he cannot accept that his leader is a monster. The killings traumatize the animals so badly that they stop talking about the rebellion entirely. Their hope is replaced with fear, and Napoleon feels safe, so his dictatorship becomes more open. One of the 7 commandments: change again. The animals look at the commandment: no animal shall kill any other animal. But now it says, without cause. They think they remembered it wrong. They blame themselves. That's how propaganda works. You don't fight lies if you think the lie is your own memory. This is where Napoleon fully transforms into the very human tyrant old Major warned them about. Napoleon has guards. He sleeps in a bigger bed, eats special meals, drinks whiskey, and has trumpeters announce his presence. He becomes the leader. He even gets his own poems praising him. Squealer basically becomes a North Korean state television of the farm. Everything becomes about how great Napoleon is. So, the animals rebuild the windmill, but Napoleon doesn't want it for electricity anymore. He wants it to grind corn, meaning profit. The dream that started as a vision of freedom is now just a business plan for the pigs. Snowball's dream becomes Napoleon's money-making machine. Mr. Frederick, one of the neighboring farmers, tricks Napoleon into selling him timber. Then he pays Napoleon in counterfeit money. Then he attacks the farm. He blows up the windmill again. The second destruction hits the animals even harder because they worked twice as long for it. So the animals declare war again. This battle is violent and chaotic. Many animals die. Boxer gets wounded and the farm is nearly lost, but the animals win. And Napoleon takes credit, even though it was his mistake that caused the attack in the first place. After the chaos, fear, and executions, you'd think things might calm down. The animals return to work, but they're weaker than ever. Food is scarce. Their bodies are exhausted, morale is gone, but the pigs keep saying the same line. Remember, comrades, you are better off than you were under Jones. The animals want to believe it, because if they admit they're worse off now, then the entire rebellion, everything they fought for, everything they lost, becomes pointless. It's easier to suffer with meaning than suffer with regret, and Squealer knows that perfectly. Napoleon creates new celebrations. To distract everyone from hunger, Napoleon increases ceremonies, speeches, parades. It's the same strategy dictators use in real life. When people are starving, give them entertainment. Napoleon even creates a new award, the Order of the Green Banner, which he gives to himself. The farm becomes a place where symbolism replaces reality. Boxer, the strongest and most loyal animal, is now old. His muscles ache, but he refuses to stop. Boxer dreams of retiring to a little pasture the pigs promised to provide for old farm animals. But that pasture never existed. It was propaganda. One day, while pulling heavy stones for the windmill, Boxer collapses. He lies there, unable to stand. The other animals panic. This is their hero, their symbol of strength. But the pigs don't call a doctor. They call a truck. Horse slaughterer and glue boiler, painted on the side. The most tragic scene in the book. Benjamin the donkey reads a sign and panics. They're taking Boxer to the knackers. The animals chase after the truck. They beg Boxer to escape. Boxer tries. He kicks the inside of the truck so hard the vehicle shakes. But he's too weak. His whole life he gave everything to the farm. He never questioned Napoleon, never rebelled, never doubted. His loyalty was total, and Napoleon sells him for a case of whiskey. This is the moment Orwell shows the full cruelty of totalitarianism. The loyal are used until they break, then disposed of without hesitation. After his death, Squealer gives a speech claiming Boxer died peacefully at the vet, praising Napoleon in his final words. It's an insult, a lie, a final slap to Boxer's dignity. But the animals believe it, because the truth hurts too much. The end of Animal Farm. Years pass. The farm changes. The pigs grow fatter, richer, more human. A whole new generation grows up knowing nothing about the rebellion, nothing about Old Major, nothing about equality. They're born into a dictatorship and believe it's normal. This is one of Orwell's biggest warnings. People who don't know history are easier to control. The pigs start walking on two legs. This is the final, shocking transformation. One day, the animals see the pigs walking upright on two legs, not crawling, not wobbling, walking. They carry whips, they wear clothes, they act like humans. The animals try to protest, but the dogs silence them instantly. And then Squealer unveils the final version of the commandments. Not 7, not edited, just 1. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. This is Orwell's ultimate punchline, a contradiction that makes sense only when freedom has completely died. Equality exists only on paper. Power exists only for the pigs. The pigs invite human farmers over for a meeting. The animals watch through the window. Pigs play cards with humans, drink with humans, behave exactly like humans. Napoleon announces that the farm will no longer be called Animal Farm. It will return to its original name, Manor Farm. Everything comes full circle. The rebellion has been erased, the dream of equality dead. The animals outside look from pig to human, and from human to pig. And they can't tell which is which. Because the pigs have become the same oppressors the animals fought to overthrow. That's the tragedy of Animal Farm. The revolution didn't fail because of humans. It failed because of greed, power, and betrayal from within.